Hello everyone, I'm Rahul and I welcome you to this third session of Gautam Buddha series. In this session, we will enter into Buddha's teachings. It is said that when Buddha became enlightened, his first discourse was on Four Noble Truths. And these four truths can further be divided into two aspects: diagnosis and prescription. So the first two Noble Truths talk about the diagnosis of human suffering, and the last two Noble Truths contain the prescription, a possible cure for the human suffering. So Buddha has a very scientific and pragmatic approach. First, he carefully observes the problem of human suffering, and then he tries to find out the possible cure for the suffering. So in this session, we will go deeply into the first two Noble Truths. We will try to understand Buddha's diagnosis of human suffering from a modern viewpoint, from an evolutionary standpoint also. Now, Buddha's diagnosis of human suffering has two parts, in which he explains the nature of suffering and the cause of suffering, in the first and second Noble Truths, respectively. In the first truth, he says that life is suffering. Now, the exact word that Buddha has used in Pali language is tanha. And tanha is usually translated as thirst, craving, and sometimes even desire. I think unquenchable thirst kind of captures the whole feeling that we constantly live with. Unquenchable thirst is a synonym for dissatisfaction. And this is what Buddha's observation is, that human beings live in a constant state of dissatisfaction. There is a lingering unsatisfactoriness that never leaves us. It is always there. So we are restless deep down. Now at this point, a lot of you might say that Buddha seems like a pessimist. Where is suffering in life? We are not dissatisfied all the time. We are not restless all the time. What unsatisfactoriness is he talking about? Now, to counter this, I would like to say that Buddha is neither a pessimist nor an optimist. He is a realist. If you think that there is no suffering in life, then perhaps you have formed a judgment towards reality. Then perhaps you are not looking at reality as it is. Maybe you need to have a closer look at your life, and then you will find how you are feeling deep down all the time. Deep down, we all are craving for something or the other all the time. Whether it's the rich or the poor, the successful or the unsuccessful, the famous or the unknown, the powerful or the powerless, deep down, we all are dissatisfied with who we are and what we have. And we can't help it. It is our nature. In one of his discourse, Osho was talking about this first noble truth. And he said that Buddha has made a correct statement. It is true that life is suffering, but it is only half truth. The other half is that most of us are unaware of this fact. Life is suffering for most of us, and we simply endure the suffering without realizing it. So why is it that we are unconscious of this whole phenomena? I think the basic flaw is our misunderstanding about the nature of desire. We desire things in the hope that their fulfillment will make us happy, will make us satisfied, right? And we are so fixated on the end result, the fulfillment of desire, that we simply fail to see what the actual process of desire is doing to us. What is desire? When you say that I want more money, more success, more fame, or more of this and that, according to your conditioning, indirectly you're saying to yourself that till the time these desires are not fulfilled, I will remain dissatisfied. I will remain unhappy. I will remain discontent. So we are practicing suffering without realizing it. We are living so unconsciously. This whole process is happening and we are actively participating in this process without realizing it. Now let's say your desire is fulfilled. What happens after that? Of course you will feel relieved for a while. Why? Because you're not desiring anything anymore. It's the desire that causes tension. It's the desire that causes anxiety. And when the desire is fulfilled, when you're not desiring anything anymore, you are relieved from that tension and anxiety. For example, if I ask you to clench your fist very tightly for 1 minute, what will happen? You will start feeling a certain tension in your forearms. You will start feeling a mild pain in your fingers. And after 1 minute, when you will unclench your fist, there will be a relief. So clenching your fist tightly is like desiring. And unclenching means that the desire is fulfilled. And there is no need to clench your fist so tightly all the time. If you will see the fact that desire is causing so much anxiety and tension in you, you will not desire. If you will see the fact that clenching the fist is what makes you more tense, what is the cause of this pain in your fingers, you will not clench your fist tightly. But we fail to see things as they are. Why? Because we are so fixated on the end result rather than its subsequent evaporation. Now the question arises that why has nature designed us in a way that makes us suffer so much? So as a thought experiment, I want you to think of yourself as a designer, a creator. How would you design a human brain if you want them to reach their primary goal of surviving and reproducing? Now, Robert Wright in his book, Why Buddhism is True, talks about 3 principles of design. And I think these principles makes sense also. So what are these principles? First principle. Whenever human beings should reach their goal of surviving and reproducing, they should get some pleasure. If they have food, if they have sex, they should get some pleasure, because pleasure is what reinforces the behavior. It will make them repeat the behavior that led them to reach their primary goal of surviving and reproducing. In the second principle, he says that the pleasure should not last forever. Now imagine if human beings will eat food and they will be blissed out forever and they won't feel the need to eat again. What will happen? They will die very soon. So the pleasure that they get after eating the food should be followed by an unpleasant sensation of hunger. Similarly, if they will have sex and they won't feel the need to indulge in sex again, then they will not reproduce. And that's not what is on nature's agenda, right? So pleasure should not last forever. The third principle is that human beings should focus more on the fulfillment of pleasure rather than its subsequent evaporation. Now imagine if you will think about reaching a goal, if you will think about how pleasurable it's gonna feel, you will be motivated to pursue the goal. And if you will start thinking that what's the point of eating, you only feel good for a while, what's the point of indulging in sex, eventually the pleasure fades away, then you will not eat, then you will not reproduce. And it's not on nature's agenda. That's why these are the 3 principles that make absolute sense when it comes to surviving and reproducing. This is how our brain functions. And this is the reason why we focus more on pleasure rather than its subsequent evaporation. Now, this is one possible explanation of our design from an evolutionary standpoint. And I think it's quite convincing also. From nature's point of view, happiness and unhappiness are just tools. If making us happy in one moment will motivate us to do the work that's on nature's agenda, then fine. If making us unhappy, if making us suffer will make us do the work that's on nature's agenda, then also fine. So nature does not care whether we are happy or unhappy. It just wants us to survive and reproduce. And it uses the mechanism of pain and pleasure to fulfill its agenda. Now Buddha also comes to this understanding about our design, but he does not get into the theory of the design. He does not say that why has nature designed us like this? What is the purpose of the nature? No. He simply observes that we are suffering because of our inherent design. And in the second noble truth, he says that there is a cause of suffering. And the cause is our desire for becoming and unbecoming. Now look at his practical approach. First, he says that life is suffering. And in the second step, he tries to find out the cause of that suffering. And then he closely observed the mechanism of pleasure and pain within and made this statement that the desire for becoming and unbecoming is the cause of our suffering. So let's try to understand what he meant by becoming and unbecoming. So Buddha has divided the process of mind in 4 steps: consciousness, perception, sensation, reaction. Consciousness is the receiving part of the mind. It simply takes in the raw data through your 5 senses. So whatever you are experiencing in this moment, you are kind of taking in the raw data through your 5 senses. You are opening the door of your 5 senses, and through those doors, the objective reality is entering in you. And you are not evaluating that data. You are not judging that data. You are simply taking in the data. The second step is perception. Perception is that part of the mind which then recognizes the raw data. After distinguishing it, after categorizing it, after labeling it, and then it further assigns a value to that data. It evaluates it either as positive or negative, or maybe neutral. The third step is sensation. The moment the value is assigned as either positive or negative, immediately a sensation arises in our whole body and mind. If there is a positive value, then a pleasant sensation arises in us. If there is a negative value, an unpleasant sensation arises in us. If it is a neutral thing, then nothing much will happen. The fourth step is reaction. Now pay attention here, because this is exactly where we suffer. If there is a pleasant sensation, a wish arises in us to prolong the sensation. If there is an unpleasant sensation, a wish arises in us to stop the sensation. So when Buddha says the desire for becoming, he simply means the wish to prolong a positive sensation, a pleasant sensation. When he says the desire for unbecoming, he means the desire to stop an unpleasant sensation. So the desire to prolong also creates suffering. The desire to stop also creates suffering, because in both the cases, both the situations, we are kind of clenching our fist very tightly without realizing it. When you want to prolong something, what is actually happening? You're not accepting the things as they are. You want them to change. When you want to stop an unpleasant sensation, again the same thing. You're not accepting the reality as it is. You're trying to change the reality. This effort to change something which is not in your control is a cause of suffering. It is like clenching your fist very tightly. It results in so much anxiety and in so much tension, and we are not even aware of it. So fundamentally, Buddha's observation kind of aligns with evolutionary psychology. Nature rewards us for any behavior that increases our chances of survival and reproduction through a pleasant sensation. And it also punishes us for any behavior that decreases our chances of survival and reproduction through an unpleasant sensation. And in both these sensations, a desire, a craving is born. If there is a pleasant sensation, the desire to prolong it. If there is an unpleasant sensation, the desire to avoid it. So this desire is the cause of suffering. So that's all for this session. I think that you have clearly understood Buddha's diagnosis of human suffering from an evolutionary standpoint. And in the next session, we will try to understand the third and fourth noble truth, which according to Buddha are a possible cure for the human suffering. So I'll see you there. Thank you.